front of you. So give up on it. We are all living the same city in Abadan, where the city of refinery, the biggest refinery of the world was at that time, 1953, 55. We all lived together with no problem. I never witnessed that a Christian fought against Muslim, or the Muslim Shia fought against Sunni, or Armenian fought against the Jews. We didn't have that problem until Israel came to existence. When Israel came to existence, the propaganda began that is not your country. They lived in Iran for 2,000 years. Suddenly Israeli claim that is not your country. You have to sell everything and bring everything with you in terms of dollars or pound and invest it in Israel. Do you know some of those people want to go back to Iran? Why? Because they had beautiful homes inside in Iran and good business. But they can't because Israelis don't let them go.
Well, that was, they wanted them from everywhere.
The
Russians, half of Israel is Russian. So in the number 2 spot for the Jews is Brooklyn, New York.
Let me make the point.
Let me ask one more question.
Sure.
This isn't Israel stuff. It's Ahmadinejad. Okay. He, seems like a very strong personality, and he stated how he didn't win honestly and appropriately. But what is it about?
He didn't say that. He said he did win.
He did win. He won Ommani. He did. You said he didn't.
No, I said did.
No, you didn't. You said didn't. It's on the tape. You said be careful with your enunciation. Enunciate, Paul.
I'm from New York.
Okay.
I'm Jewish. I have a New York accent. That's what I meant.
I understood.
Did. He won. 85%. I would have said yes. Okay, he's not didn't. So my question to you, what is it about him, since you didn't even know the man, what is it about him? I mean, I can see a president being protective of his community, of his home, right, as every president should be. But what is it about him that he's, in essence, become such a upsetting to the rest of the world around him? What is it about his personality, or what's going on? Why are people upset with this man?
Iran has relations with 115 non-aligned nations. When Iran attends those conferences of non-aligned nations that began 50 years ago with Indonesian President Sukarno started that, and the Egyptians. We have a good place among 115 nations. When Iran attends 56 Muslim nations, the Conference of Muslim Nations, Iran is well received. Iran, Ahmadinejad, one of the first countries that said the election was not rigged, and Ahmadinejad is the president of Iran, was China and Russia. Put China and Russia together. And of course, many countries around, they said, yes, is Turkey immediately. So that is not really true. Who is the world? If the world, by the definition of George Bush, the world is just made up of eight countries, and that is the United States, Canada, Australia, and the European big powers, Germany. But that's not the world.
I agree with you.
They're mistaken that the world, one problem that the United States has, misrepresenting the facts, even facts as so clearly, because I've studied the non-aligned nations, I've studied SCO, the Shanghai Conference, nations in the Shanghai Conference, they all respect Iran. But of course, there's 8 countries in the world that every time they say, including Obama said a couple of days ago, that Iran is isolated in the international arena. That's not true. We have, with 135 countries, Iran has international trade. So tell me, how is it that we are so isolated, but Iran gets any commodity and every commodity that it needs around the world and sells to them? This is unbelievable. I mean, this is despicable that they say Iran, Obama, including Obama. I voted for Obama, by the way. My wife worked for the election of Obama. But recently he's been under the pressure by Clintonites and the Jewish population, and especially the ACAP, that Obama take a stiff position towards Iran. But what happens is the United States. Yeah, I've seen here that Obama is talking tough now. We are condemning. Come on, you killed so many people in, not you, I mean the United States.
Vietnam.
So many people in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and now Pakistan, and Vietnam, and Laos, and Cambodia, and I can go on and on and on because I've demonstrated for every one of them. They want to tell us that they're condemning us? Oh no, that's not. They're not real. They're not real. If Obama continues on the path of George Bush, if it takes a long-term struggle, 30, 50 years, we will do that. We are not the boys of yesterday. We have a long history. Many countries invaded Iran, including the Mongols. And the British invaded Afghanistan. And the United States carried out the coup of 1953.
Yes.
That's most of
Huge.
And turned Iran into a big prison that you could not talk to your brother because you didn't know whether he's going to deport you or not. Yes, exactly, behind the walls. So we have done good. Really, in the last 30 years, I talked to the Shah once, the king.
There's this habit of running up to
Yeah, I have the habit of running into kings and presidents.
You were tortured by Sabat.
Oh yes, they did.
Well, that
And they made me political. Overnight, in 3 days and nights, they made me political, understanding. I was telling them I'm a first-rank student in the university in physics. They said, you are more dangerous than the dummies, okay? Get this. And so, I don't think we should really pay attention to what the propaganda in New York, all these newspapers.
That's all we're getting on the news now.
But you see,
It's an out-and-out propaganda barrage.
can I make one comment? I was in Shiraz, sitting in my apartment, looking out the Shirazi Mountains, listening to, we have satellite TV. It's illegal in Iran, but you can't get good reception if you don't put a satellite up. Everybody has it. There's like 50 satellite dishes on the top of all of your buildings. But I got a phone call. President Ahmadinejad speaks at the Durban conference. And I'm watching CNN because it's in English. And BBC, World News, it's in English. And I see over and over this group of some students and some people in the back yelling at Ahmadinejad during the speech. And I knew that at certain points he was saying Israel, because I told you I know enough Farsi so that I can pick out like major vocabulary words and nouns and things like that. And then, of course, there was a gentleman who was wearing a clown hat, and he had a little red ball, and he threw it at Ahmadinejad as he was led away by the guards as he went in the front. And Ahmadinejad kind of gave a funny, kind of a weird smile. And I said to Ardeshir, what is he saying? What happened? So he said he switched to a Farsi channel, listened more at length to what the Persian speech was, because it was in Persian. So he heard it firsthand, original source. And then he said, Ellie was talking about Israel, and he called Israel's treatment of the Palestinians racist. I happen to agree with that.
Makes sense.
I don't think you can annihilate and starve an entire population without believing that they're below you, that they're subhuman. Because human beings we're not made like that. If you see, an American person, even with prejudiced feelings, most of them, if they see someone down and out, they will reach out. Unless they have been taught that it's just a piece of dirt that's below me, and it's not worth me working.
Tell it to the Indians.
Well, that's correct. That's correct. But I want to say that I got a phone call from a young person that was a student who was very upset that a Persian student who was upset that Ahmadinejad embarrassed us in front of the world. He knew enough English, and he said, I heard you're an American. Would you please talk to me about what you think Ahmadinejad's speech was? And I said, well, first of all, until I get the full copy in English, but I'm going to tell you my impression. He said, how do you think it impacts and how does it make us look in the eyes of the world? I said, you know what? In my eyes, I said, I'm proud of Ahmadinejad because he spoke the truth. And I said, one of the problems with the political forces of today is they are so unprincipled, so opportunist, that they don't dare stand up and say, this is wrong and this is right because of this and this. They say, let's make a deal behind the scenes. We all know that. You know it. You despise it, Paul, I'm sure. Those kind of unprincipled decisions. So the young man was kind of shocked, and I told him, do you know about Rachel Corrie? He said, who? I said, well, I'm wearing the green bracelet, and I've worn this since about 2000.
The girl run over by the bulldozer?
Yes, yes.
In Israel?
An American child,
yeah.
really a child. She was 24 years old.
Yeah.
And she was defending a Palestinian family's home who was being bulldozed by the Israeli bulldozers. That is one of the known factors that everybody in the world knows, outside of the United States, that Israel regularly bulldozes and uproots olive trees and creates a genocidal acts against a whole population of innocent civilians. And when she stood in her orange jacket and stood on a mound of earth going like, no, stop, as a nonviolent resistor, nonviolent, he smashed her body to bones. And I thought this was a crime. So I have worn this bracelet.
Yeah,
funny,
you run somebody over with a
funny,
bulldozer
I
on
just want to
purpose.
tell you a little story. I went to vote. I voted for Ahmadinejad. But the people that were doing the voting, the Iranians, after I took my Shanaznameh, they assumed because I'm an American that I voted for Mousavi. So after I did the voting, and they didn't know, I wrote on the ballot, I put it inside the box here in New York, and then I went to get my Shanaznameh, my ID, and the guy whispers, I like your green bracelet. And I realized he thought that this was a symbol.
It's a green.
That it's green, that I was with the green movement.
Wasabi.
And I was suddenly torn, like, should I tell this man the truth? That this is in commemoration, in anger of what Israel did to a young American child who was over there defending Palestinians? And then I said, no, Ellie, this isn't the time or place, so I left.
The supporters of Mousavi, they don't want us to be identified with the Arabs. They don't. They want to be
Maybe Saudi
identified.
Arabian Arabs.
Excuse me.
Maybe the leadership.
They want to be identified
With America.
with French boys and girls. They want to be identified with the Americans.
Yes.
They don't want to be identified with Afghanis either. They don't want to be identified. This is why I'm saying the class nature of the upheaval, that the youngsters that I talked to, the university students of Tehran, they said, why should we help the Arabs? Why should we help the Palestinians? Why should we be friends with Chavez of Venezuela?
Morales.
Why this short man, they mean Ahmadinejad, excuse me,
Sorry.
goes around the world and picks up the ugly people, and he embraces these poor and ugly people. We want to be identified with the rich. We want to be with French. We want to be with German.
The rich.
Said, it's not so easy to be identified with the Germans. Be careful, because for that identification, you have to have the blood of the German. It was in their constitutions, at least. You cannot become a citizen of Germany, because if you don't have the blood of the German in your body, you cannot be a German. So don't opt for it. Probably you are closer to the Arabs because you look like more Semitic.
Is that in the Constitution now?
Well, I believe so, because it's not easy to... the Turks have been living in Frankfurt for the last 40 years. When I was there, 1973, the Turks, they're not citizens. They are workers, guest workers. They're still called guest workers. So this was the culture of the rich kids from northern Tehran, that they wanted really, they knew nothing about the United States, by the way. They know nothing about the sociology of the United States. They know
wait a minute, they know popular culture, they know Michael Jackson, they know all the, all of that. They know.
That they
and
know.
They want to
they
be
know
part
more
of
than
that.
I do, probably.
Twitter, they know all that.
Exactly,
And,
they can use those things.
And people want to be associated with people who are successful and wealthy and yuppie mentality.
No, that's true.
Sir, you were a young adult in Iran during the time of Mossadegh, and then when, of course, the British, now this is my understanding, I'm a black American, but I know a little something. The British had, Mossadegh was the legally elected president of Iran.
Yeah.
And then what he did was, at the time, the British were ripping off all of Iran's oil and not paying the Iranians any money. So what he did was nationalize the property of Iran and give the money to the citizens.
May I correct you?
Sure, please.
First, he said, let's change the contract.
Okay.
We gave you a contract in 1901 to a person called Mr. Darcy. Not Darcy. We gave him a contract in 1901, but in 1909, when the first wells in Masjid Suleiman reached fruition, suddenly Mr. Darcy sold 50% of the company to the British Navy. Practically, it was one side a third world country, the other side was the government of United Kingdom. And Churchill was in charge of the Navy before the Second World War.
Yeah.
You know what he said in one of his speeches? From the Persian oil, we made the Navy of Britain the biggest navy on earth. With the money from the Persian oil.
Yeah.
You see, we have seen these things.
And so when
Yeah.
Mossadegh asked to
I'm
change
sorry,
the
I
contract,
did not
Mossadegh was overwhelmingly
Please go ahead.
popular.
Yeah. So then, Mossadegh wanted to change the contract.
That's right.
Because naturally they're taking all this wealth out of Iran,
Right.
and it's like Iranians' property.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened was, I guess he nationalized.
Finally, when the British were buying a barrel of oil for 7 cents, it was cheaper than a barrel of water inside Iran. Okay? And my father worked in the oil industry for 35 years. And at the end, he had very little to show for it. I worked in the refinery too, in the National Oil, Iranian Oil Company. And in the after the Second World War, I remember there was a big strike by the workers. What do you think they were asking for? Do you know what we were asking for? Running water.
Upstart,
and electricity.
They just stole everything.
uppity.
And road to get to work. Road.
They stole everything.
Yeah, stolen everything. We were asking let us also learn how to manage the refinery. The British didn't want us. They did not train Iranians in that refinery. They only employed them in the lowest level possible so that they would not learn how to run this industry.
Yeah.
For 45 years, they exploited the wealth of Iran. You know, that company, Darcy Company, that we sold the contract to, today it's called BP, British Petroleum, the second largest oil company in the world. How is it? How is it that the Iranian people were asking, believe me, one of their demands was, our children need education. Why don't you build schools? You're taking all this wealth away, and at least build small little schools for the children, our children to go. We need little hospitals. Little hospitals.
Give us some food, you know, water.
This was, water.
Electricity.
Little hospitals.
Oh, gee. You guys are so greedy, huh?
Our eyes, my eyes had problems. And there were no nurses. There were no doctors to just wash your eyes with certain medicine. It didn't exist. So we've been harmed. In the coup d'etat of 1953, Eisenhower participated fully in it.
We all know Kermit Roosevelt. Right?
Kermit Roosevelt was the man who carried out the coup.
Okay, that was...
he was in
the CIA.
Yeah, okay.
That's the same time of Allende in Chile,
I mean, we
Arbenz
don't want
in
this.
Guatemala.
We want to change. We change the condition. We would like to see the United States and Obama talk to us with respect. We would like to see the United States does not interfere in our internal affairs. We would like to see that the United States does not channel money into the hands of the terrorists in Afghanistan, in Kurdistan, and in Balochistan, and in Azerbaijan to fragment Iran into pieces.
But let me ask you a question. All the demonstrations that we saw after the election, who were all the people demonstrating?
Okay,
Yes.
that's a very important
They
question.
came, you want to answer
Yeah,
that
I want to
question?
say that at the initial demonstrations, the first 3 and 4 days were a massive upward from primarily the Tehran capital. Obviously, people are not going to get in there. You know, it takes 5 hours to drive from Isfahan to the capital of Tehran. But if you notice, almost all of the videos and all of the taping came from one focal point, and it was the Tehran. And particularly, Tehran is a city of 12 million people now.
Wow.
It particularly came focused from the north of Tehran and the east of Tehran, which is where Ardeshir described to you. And we took a drive up Banak Avenue, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous place. It's at the bottom of the Elborz Mountains. And the very wealthy and the upper class live in northern Tehran. And I'm not saying that there weren't poor or there weren't working class individuals or there weren't young, beautiful, naive, and committed young high school kids, because we met them on the street corner of Talakani Avenue in Basra, where some of this fighting, physical fighting, took place. We were standing right on that corner just before we came back to the United States, before the elections. And we met some of those kids. And let me tell you, they were beautiful, they were young, they were also very naive and not very politically astute. But they got all happy and excited that, good, we don't have to keep worrying about going to the mosque every day. They were not, although they were wearing all their black clothes, you know, their chadors, they came from probably a little less, I can't say where they came from because I didn't sit down and do a class study and ask them. But what I was amazed at is that they assumed, because I was an American that I was for Mousavi. And when they asked me, are you going to vote for Mousavi? I said, no, I'm going to vote for Ahmadinejad. And they why would you vote for Ahmadinejad? And they didn't understand. And I said, because I come from my husband's family, and we live in the south. We're in Shiraz. And I said, I visited the dialysis unit that my nephew is, what do we call it, the assistant of the government hospital that treats the poor people who otherwise would just die from the kidney disease. Years ago they died. They just died. Goodbye. Bury the guy and say Allahu Akbar. Now he can go and get a dialysis treatment at government expense. And that's a tenet of Muslim. Not all Muslims believe that they should give that much. They think it's okay, Why isn't that, you've heard these comments. Why doesn't he work for his money? When we want to give social programs for people in the United States, what do we hear from the Republicans? They don't deserve it. Let them work for it. We came here.
What about the excessive force against the demonstrators?
Okay.
Does that doesn't look good.
I wanted to finish that comment about who were these millions. First of all, they always overestimate the numbers. They showed you for 5 and 7 days the same videos over and over saying that thousands and millions were coming out in the street. How many times did you see the 2 million people who marched for Ahmadinejad? CNN showed it, I think, about 5 times. 5 times. Out of a 24-hour straight program on Iran, kept repeating the other videos from the north of Tehran and from the Lanak Square. Those were real people. Those were real demonstrations. Why did they attack them?
Well,
First of all, yes.
And the armed forces of Iran are three fronts, 3 sections, you can say. The regular army that Islamic Republic inherited from the Shah's time. Then we have the second big body of military. It's called what's it called? Not Basij. Not Basij. No. Sepah.
Yes.
Sepah. Sepah is the Revolutionary Guard. The number is not small. The number is about 80 to 120,000. These are ideologically prepared. They're ready to die to protect Iran, and they're very good at it. The last section, which is doesn't have arm. This is not the last section, which is called Basij. They don't. It's a neighborhood thing, and they're not armed. They have clubs.
And they have shields.
Yes, and they have shields, but they have clubs. And all this time, Khamenei said that Basij should not be given, all these days, Basij should not be given any arm, because in the Constitution says Basij should not have arms. Therefore, no firearms by any organized body was introduced into this.
That's why there were so
scene.
few deaths.
There were some guns.
12 deaths, 20
There were
deaths,
some
deaths,
guns that killed
2
some
million
people. We have a question. Who were those individuals who had guns? As you know, we had a group of terrorists in the United States State Department classifies them as terrorists, and that's called Mujahideen Khalq. Mujahideen Khalq that worked and stayed in Iraq and helped Saddam Hussein to attack Iran. Okay, and they're still there. They are under the thumbs of the United States, and U.S. uses them in different occasions, including some of them are trained. Today, Mujahideen Khalq, there are a few thousand. Their allegiance is to the United States, because the United States a year ago said, you want our protection, you have to be part of the U.S. Army, and we'll take you to Afghanistan and Pakistan. We train
I
you.
have to leave.
He has to ask
what
one
you're
question.
saying right now
He wants-
reminds me, and I don't even know if this is another true one, it reminds me of the Taliban, right? Weren't they our students that we had put there, and we paid for them so they could keep us away from the Russians?
That's right.
Paul's falling out. Did you have one more question? Did you have one
thank
question you wanted to ask?
One question is, I'm trying to, I'm very tired, and I
Yeah.
can't think of,
Me too.
but I'd like to share some of what you're saying, okay? Because I have a show actually called Good News Israel, but I have, I'm just about good, positive
What's the name of
thinking
your show?
and different opinions, okay?
Yeah.
It's a broadcast on the internet worldwide. So I have to think about what I'd like to ask of you. I can't actually, and Harold's my good buddy, and
Yeah.
so
Do you ever
I
get
will.
any of the Jewish voices for peace?
I have
He's
tons
all
of
for peace.
It's all about peace, and it's all
Oh.
about people
Good.
with the Palestinians and what people are doing, all the things they're doing together to try to make life a nicer place.
Thank you for coming.
So I'd be very interested in figuring
Well,
out.
what you
So
do-
are you transmitting the Palestinian point of view as well? And their plight?
I really stay a lot away from politics, but the point is.
But your
it's
show
not-
is called Good News Israel.
No.
No, it's called
I do
Good
have a
News
show.
Network.
I'd be happy to do a show, Good News Iran. I'd be
We
happy
gave
to
you
do a
good
show,
news. As
Good News
long as you're
Palestine.
breaking-
Get his card. Get his card.
I'm
Yeah, I was
cardless.
just gonna
You're
say.
Cardless.
As long
But
as you're
just
breaking the
I'm
monopoly.
open.
So how do we
I'm
find
open.
you?
Goodnewstogo.com.
Rogues
Right.
Gallery.
Well, how do we find you?
Right there.
Good News to Go. I own a thing.
As long as you
Good News to Go.
Yeah, you could be in touch and do a program with
Yes.
him. He's got it on
Of
the
course.
internet. He's got a great presence.
Ready anytime.
And also, you know what, sir? I don't know, we couldn't get in touch with him, but the Jewish, the representative to the Majlis, well, you probably saw it. They, Christian Amanpour, who is,
Yeah,
this
they-
young man's here, she interviewed him
Uh-huh.
in Iran, in one
Uh-huh.
of the broadcasts, and she asked him, do Jewish, what's the situation? And he said, just like any ethnic group, we all have our needs and things that we want to improve. But he said, I can tell you that we are not against the Islamic Republic, we are not repressed or oppressed by it. He was quite a spokesman. I think she was a little bit shocked that it came out. And
Okay,
was
Paul's
so
Thank
leaving.
you. I have to run.
Paul,
Okay, sir.
I'll talk to you
Thank you
tomorrow
for
about
Use
Reed.
the restroom.
Yeah, okay. And this is for them. They could be in touch with you?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Thank
He's
you.
tired.
Paul Sanders. He
It's-
came all the he came all the way from Brooklyn?
Yeah. No, yeah, he's out. He's got a presence out in Brooklyn.
No, news.
It's really, really interesting to get your take on things and everything.
It's very refreshing.
It's very unusual.
And it changed my whole, I didn't know I'd walk into this tonight, but I'm really grateful, and it's like the truth, like where the truth is now.
Yes, here.
But of course, I'm hearing your point of view, but I tend to trust you.
Oh, that's so nice.
Would you maybe have a crack to get on a show like Charlie Rose or something? Or
No, he wouldn't. They wouldn't be on
They
there.
aren't giving the party
They
line that we're supposed to hear on.
I know. So how Democracy Now? Like, where would they get their
well,
word
Democracy
out?
Now, maybe, I don't know.
I intend to
I got
challenge you.
interviewed 30 years ago by WBAI, the week of the revolution in Iran, by the black man, what was his name?
Samori Marks.
Samori
So Mara Marksman's a great guy. Yeah.
He was a great guy.
Yeah.
And
He brought
really,
ethnic
they
minorities.
established the media, I call them corporate media, they don't ask us to, they don't invite us. And they invite people who have proven themselves to be at the service of, like for example, you know how many times they invited Erwan Abrahamian?
Well, he wrote two
He's
books.
a,
Right, you got book to push.
yeah, and
He wrote to the team. Ardeshir's known him for 34
yeah,
years.
no, 45 years. And also they invited Trita
Tomorrow.
Parsi.
Okay.
Bye-bye,
Oh,
dear.
thank you. Thank you.
Trita Parsi is a person of the organization NIAC that gets money from the United States. Of course, those who get money,
And also
we don't accept
has
them.
meetings at the State Department to advise them on Iran. I wonder if they'd let us give them advice.
So corrupt. It's so sad. The whole thing is just sad.
And I think you're right. One of the things that some of my friends, my American friends, who know and who've been on our mailing list, AICs, and we send them information that they don't get from the mass media. And they say, why don't you try to get on a BAI or whatever? So I intend to call Amy and or a morning wake-up call. But as you know, WBI is going through some struggle.
They sure are. There were a lot of people supposed to come from all that, and they didn't. You know, I don't know why. We're in the middle of all that WBAI stuff.
Yeah, a long time. Pacifica.
No, recently.
Oh, recently.
No, that Pacifica, that was 2 years ago. Now,
Again,
half of the people who worked for years there.
Bernard White's out.
Bernard White, Don DeBar.
John DeBar was going to come tonight. Coley was going to come. He didn't. But anyway, yeah. But there's
you need an agent. Like you have someone pushing. Is that part? Yeah.
We don't even have 501c3 status. So whatever money we put out to
From our own pocket.
is from him and mine and our Iranian friends that kick in $50 a year.
We had a meeting, by the way, a few days ago in Westchester.
Yeah.
And was well received.
Yeah,
It was beautiful. The person, Nguyen.
Fred Nguyen.
Fred Nguyen.
He is on WBI Sunday mornings, a radio
Very
program.
early in the morning, like 6 o'clock
No,
or 5
3.
o'clock, 3 o'clock. Yeah, he came, Fred came.
Yeah.
And so...
You take the whole program.
Let me get it on tape here now, and I want hang in for a little while. There's a couple things I'd like to develop. But one of the things we have in terms of alternate media is the YouTube, and you're aware of it. And I was absolutely flabbergasted by it because I put up. This is going to be up tomorrow on YouTube already, so that'll be something, and people will get it linked. And I got an email from Rodney Shakespeare today who says that the people in Iran are very tech savvy. There are a lot of people that are tech savvy. They're not about everything. And that he was convinced that he was just there, and he said that he was going to win 2-1, and he did. I think the election results are legitimate. They will hold. He will be addressing the nationalist, General Assembly in September, and so forth. So you've got a thing where somebody's lost an election and they're making a lot of trouble. So that's a thing of what the facts are. But the one thing is, in terms of alternate media, particularly multimedia. Yeah, dear, you want to say?
Yeah, I read that this Nita, this girl that became this,
She became the
martyr.
angel of the green movement.
She was killed by a CIA bullet.
Well, that's a threat.
It wasn't
That's
a
what,
bullet.
Nobody knows. And
It wasn't a caliber of bullet that was normally available in Iran. It was a bullet that's typically used by CIA assassination squads.
Yes.
There just happened to be a camera right there.
That's right.
It was not an area that was having active demonstrations.
So why kill that young girl?
well,
It is so
For the
illogical.
media.
A martyr?
stir up a martyr.
Make a martyr.
Make a martyr if you have to.
It's so irrational to think
Yeah.
that somebody on the top of the roof is going to shoot a girl which is so in isolation and separate away from the demonstrators.
Yeah,
The
and
mass of
there happens to
demonstrators
be
were
a
on the other
camera
side.
running.
He doesn't shoot them.
Where did
He
you get
shoots
that
this girl who
On the
comes out of
internet,
a
I can
car
send it to you.
Yeah.
with her mother or somebody, a friend, and then there is a camera and takes her picture immediately.
Yeah. Well, it could be. It could. They wanted to stir that up.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Killed
Yeah.
to make a big fuss.
Well,
Yeah.
I knew when I saw who was circulating the video, the first day I saw that there was this beautiful young girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I saw her life out of her, and it was a horrible scene. That was the very first video. Then immediately the internet became flooded with videos that then showed blood pouring out of her mouth from two sides, blood pouring out of her nose, and blood across her eye. And I looked at the website and I said, wait a minute, why does this website showing this look so familiar? Then I started clicking on other, how along the side on YouTube they have all these
The reference.
Then I realized, and I traced the video places back to this group called Let Iran Freedom, Let Freedom Live, or
Some
Iran
CIA.
Freedom. Yeah, it's been, those are the neocons and the monarchists that for years were sending around doctored photographs
Yeah.
of
That's all special
video.
effects, you mean? I wasn't
Oh,
sure.
Could
Well,
be Photoshop.
I can't say. All I can say is, why was the first video? Because according to the news we're getting now, she was shot through the heart. Now, I don't know, when you're shot through the heart, it means your blood comes out of your eye and maybe it comes from everywhere. I don't know. But when I slowed the video down, because I was trying to understand why in the first picture there was absolutely no blood on her face, and then later, the second video that went around with all she's been killed by the Basij. That was the other thing. When some people began to question the validity of the video, not that this woman had not been killed, but there were questions being raised. I wasn't the only one, I was glad, on the internet. In order to answer the questions, they had to do a major, major job of finding a doctor, a young Persian doctor in London or in Germany, who said he was there and he tried to help her, but she died within a minute. And that there was no Basij, there was no demonstration. She had gotten out of the car and was with her music teacher, and it was on the periphery. It wasn't even at the demonstration. That's why she didn't have green on. She didn't have, and why did she die?
Well, Ahmadinejad's asked
I
for.
don't think, and Ahmadinejad
He wants a- he
The
wants a
same
full
day,
investigation.
the same
Yeah.
day that she died, or she got killed, the same day,
Did you want to?
there was a bomb went off in Iraq. 70 people died,
Yeah.
183 injured, and they never said CNN that did not cover it.
Yeah.
None of this
Those are
media
insurgents.
covered
Yeah.
70
Those are insurgents.
people
They're not
died
human beings with
and
children.
183 injured.
They're not mothers.
Every day there are deaths in Afghanistan, in Pakistan. It's horrible, horrible. They just sent this
Oh, yes. Perfect.
the bombs into these communities. 2 million of Pakistanis living in the mountains without food, without shelter, without water, without electricity, and no one, no CIA, no CNN asked the question, what is happening to these 2 million people?
Yeah.
And it's the U.S. drones that drove them off their land.
Yeah. Predator. Yeah. That's really something. But anyway,
It's horrible.
yeah, Ahmadinejad has ordered a hearing or an investigation into that woman. Yeah, and everything. But the point I wanted to make is in terms of, and it was like a feeding frenzy. By the way, it's amazing
Yeah, it was a
the
feeding
thing.
frenzy.
Everybody's saying they want
Thank you.
freedom and everything.
Thank you.
But the thing I wanted to mention in terms of multimedia is Ardeshir and I a year or two ago over at MNN did a program,
Very good.
and we put it up on YouTube. And no naked women, no fancy graphics, no nothing like that. Nothing that gets the mass thing and everything like that. And it's staggering to everyone. Josh, my friend who was supposed to be here, showed it to Amy Goodman, and she said that has to be a mistake. There cannot be on a academic 1-hour talk only that many. Has been over 2,500,000 views on that one program. And my friend is just in Iran. I mean, that's staggering that there are that many. And my friend in Iran said that the people in Tehran must have picked up on that and that they're tech savvy. They know how to get right keywords or how you do it. How do we do that? That you can get those kind of numbers. And I think that will probably pick up in the fullness of time. On the one we did last week, it's coming to get the right key, and I think it's probably going to pick up on this too, even though there's only a few of us here, because there's the ring of truth to what you're saying.
What happened at that time, Ardeshir was one of the first voices to very strongly come out, thanks to Harold that he made it more public, came out with Iran's president did not say wipe Israel off the earth. Iran is not building a nuclear bomb. There is no evidence for it. Because we did a lot of educational programs in Westchester and in local community churches and schools trying to educate people that the media was misrepresenting the true Iran. And I think that what happened was, because it was the bomb Iran campaign time,
yes, it was.
When they realized that there was a program of an American Iranian here in America, they just, and they sent it.
Well, I want to find out, I don't know who knows, how the hell does that happen? How does it happen? Because they were measuring views in between 6,000 and 8,000 a day.
Wow.
It was the most popular program on YouTube of that format in the country of Saudi Arabia. They have a popularity thing, 100%, 98% most popular program in Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, and in Jordan, and in Israel, and in the Palestinian territory. Well, California, yeah, but it was particularly the Middle East.
It was the Middle East.
And what I want to find out, what we ought to investigate collectively, how the hell do you get, and what is involved in getting those kind of numbers, or even more advanced numbers, in terms of alternative multimedia programming that's available to us now. And I just wanted to make that point on this tape. And how is that done? Who knows? Who are the people that would know how to... Is it a matter of keywords? What is it? And they
well,
tell
who's
you...
that woman that helped you, Barbara? Who was that woman that spoke here on that topic?
Barbara Rosenfeld.
Yeah.
She's the one who had a terrible headache today. She couldn't come.
But
Yeah.
she knows the answer to that, right?
Well, she thinks she does.
She does?
But she doesn't have any numbers like
Timing
that.
was very
That's incredible.
It was the timing.
The
For-
United States had attacked Iraq.
Okay.
Right.
The Iraqis were fleeing by thousands over there.
Yeah. So, Victor, you know about it. How come there can be so many people watch a hour-long academic discussion and get 2,500,000 and it's still growing?
Well, I guess
How is
people
that
must
done?
be interested in the subject
No,
matter.
there's no trick to it. There's no trick. Is it a matter of keywords? How is that done? And they
Well,
also keep track, if I may, they also keep track not only of where it comes from, Google or whatever, but also viral. And it wasn't viral. It was some other
What's
way.
viral?
Viral is, I don't know.
It's
Viral
it's
means-
what do you call it? Algorithmic, like it's 2, 4, 8.
Algorithm.
Like if you see something, you send it to me, and I send it to you and you. Then you send it to 4 people, and you send it to 5 people. It blows. It
Yes.
just blows like
That's
that.
what
Yeah.
must have happened.
But they were
this
not.
wasn't that
The
way.
links were not
This
viral.
wasn't that way.
But I'm just wondering if you know anybody in maybe the people in Iran.
Well, I know
Oh,
his
yeah,
family
we
is
sent
I
You
mean,
know,
that's
obviously.
real numbers. That's real numbers.
Yes.
All
I
over the
sent
world.
them to Iran at that
And it's
time.
coming up from a little camcorder. You know, what I'm saying, I'm
That's
just saying,
amazing. I
for
know.
alternate media people, he's got a great thing. He did a rap thing with a guy about 9/11.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that was really good.
There's a
He's a
Muslim
tremendous
rapper
editor, incidentally.
that's
Tremendous
getting ready to
editor.
come out, who did a music video. He's Albanian, he's Muslim, he's a rapper, and he did a music video about 9/11.
What's his name?
9/11 truth.
Mo Slim.
Mo Slim.
M-O apostrophe
I think I heard of it.
S-L-I-M.
Is it on slow? Is it on YouTube?
It's getting ready to be. In fact, the video will probably be coming out this week.
I got to get
Mo
that
Slim.
number.
You've
Federal
been
crime.
doing
The song
a
is called
great job.
Federal Crime Scene.
You've been doing a great job, really breaking the monopoly of this.
Yeah, but he's doing something that's all flashy. That's really flashy, all that. And there's a lot of room for that. I'm talking about academic
Yeah,
discussion like you're doing.
Yeah, that's
How in the hell can that attract people that sit down and listen?
that long.
Yeah, that's all I'm making that point. And you brought up really interesting points. One of them was you say that one thing for sure, in your estimation and all your understanding, which is very developed, is that election return of making Mr. Ahmadinejad the president was legitimate.
Yes.
That's a legitimate
Certainly.
election, and so the rampage or the result is people. It would be like as if Mr. McCain was still saying, "I want to look at the election," and that kind of thing. So that's a point that'll come out, and that the 10%, was that enough? Is there a thing in which, in face of the incredible feeding frenzy, have you been watching television? It was just all comparing those people.
24/7.
Yeah, but there was nothing in there that had anything to do with the way you see it. It was all about these brave people who were fighting Tiananmen Square kind of people, that kind of
That's
stuff.
exactly
They
what
were
they were
feeding
making
on
it
that,
to.
and so that's
No,
important.
I
That
even loved it.
election.
When I saw that,
Oh,
I
yeah.
went, good.
Oh, they're
Because I was
beautiful.
ignorant, I didn't know, so I felt good. It's good to see dissension. It's
Yeah,
good to see
right.
some
Yeah.
rebellion. Good.
Yeah,
Stir
where
up
were
the
the
mix.
Americans when our
And
elections were
actually,
stolen?
most
Thank you.
Iranians
Thank
who
you.
did march were very
Yeah.
peaceful. I have to say that. I know the culture, really. And they did go out in a you know, most of them, in the way that many people join the anti-war movement. They come with their children, they come with their baby carriages, they want to make a statement. Among those people, and probably leading, without saying they're being the leaders, were instigators who wanted it to turn nasty.
Right.
And when you kill, or there were 8. The second video that came out, did you see the one where they were burning the police station in northern Tehran?
Yeah.
And I got the AP article that came. That's another thing I've learned with the corporate media. When there's an event in the world, go quickly, immediately to your major sources before they've had time to put their story
AP
in
writers?
their own spin. It was the AP writer, and he was at the scene, and it was so...
He made a mistake and let a little truth out?
He let the truth out. He said there was the rioters who brought gasoline canisters who were going to set on fire the police station in that area, and the police were standing on the top of the roof, shooting into the air, and then they ran out of their bullets.
Yeah.
And then according to him, he said, according to eyewitnesses at the scene, they could see in the police station, and they saw someone from there take aim at a demonstrator at the other end of the demonstration, which was a mile away. It didn't make sense.
Yeah,
I said,
right.
What kind of stupid comment was this? It's not even logical.
No,
So
sir.
I knew it was
A couple of other
planted.
things I'd like you to go.
Right, sir. You have the president of Iran, but you also have the Ayatollah. He's the supreme leader of Iran.
That's
So
correct.
how does that work now?
That's in the constitution. Okay. Iran.
That's important.
Who's the boss of Iran? The
Yeah.
Ayatollah?
The political system of Iran is composed of 2 parts. One part, I call it element of republicanism. That there is an election, there is a president, there is parliament. All these people get elected directly by the direct votes of the people. Then the other side of it is clerical. Clerical have a system. They have bureaucracy, they have the upper echelon and the lower echelon, just like the Roman Catholic Church, that they relate to each other, they take order from each other, the top order is the bottom, and the very top is the supreme leader of the entire.
But over
When
here,
the revolution happened in 1979,
Big event.
many of us in the West were calling for the workers of the world to unite. You understand? But when on February 9th, when from Frankfurt, I went to Tehran, and I stood on the corner of the street, I saw no proletariat is following us. They are following Imam Khomeini. I realized that the structure that they held for all those decades, they had their opportunity. There were 50,000 mosques in Iran.
Thank you.
They turned every one of them into a political headquarter of spreading the revolution against the Shah. They were very successful. People bought into it. Masses of people bought into it. So I had to settle with myself. I had to digest this. Do I accept the reality? Or should I go against it, still shouting the proletariat unite? I realized this is the level of understanding of the mass, and that is their leader, okay? Their leader. And they worked it out. But soon the United States armed Iraq to wage an 8-year war against Iran. We never forget this, because this was really this service to humanity, to Iranian people. So many Iraqis got killed. So many Iranians got killed. Why? What kind of system, social system, the United States has that can sacrifice by feeding arms into Saudi Arabia these days by the dimensions of $50 billion arms. AWACS, selling AWACS to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia doesn't have the pilots to run and fly AWACS. The Americans have to be there to fly it for them. Can you imagine another country coming and flying?
Well, that's the big problem. This whole thing, and it's really scary because you know what? We could be on the road to World War III. Two things.
Don't say that.
I'm serious, Harold. I'm not joking about this. Two things. First of all, Israel and all that came with that. The second thing with the United States putting military bases in Saudi Arabia. You know, I mean, what are you thinking?
How many
what are you
bases
thinking?
they have built around Iran? 50 of them are in Iraq. Then they have 50 in Afghanistan. Then they have in Saudi Arabia in the southern part, at least in Kuwait, in Emirates, Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and then in the north, the broken parts of the Soviet republics, old Soviet republics, they were putting bases there. There are 200 bases surrounding Iran.
Right, all
Okay?
around.
That is why we are. And then Israel.
Permanent bases?
Yeah.
Oh yes, these are permanent bases.
Yes.
200.
Once they went to
The United
Iraq,
States of
that
America
was
is an
the-
empire, so
Yeah.
that's what empires do.
Very dangerous.
That's what
Out
empires
of
do.
1,200 military bases that the United States has around the world, 200 of it is around Iran.
When the United States.
Is that if I say it again?
Out of 1,200 military bases of the United States around the world, in Africa, in Asia, 200 of it is around Iran. Surrounding Iran.
Concentrated in the middle.
Why?
Right.
What is it doing? A power with all those warships that they have brought to the Persian Gulf.